All right. So we've got the cards on Arena. I have not posted in a minute. Why not we do a quick set review? So I'll try to make it fast, highlight some of the cards, go in and out. We'll talk about Standard and Pioneer, and then you can sort of apply those rules to whatever format that you like to play. So first off, we got Daydream. This is a white blink effect, kind of like Splash Portal, but it has flashback. It being in white is nice. It means you can go turn 1 Springleaf Drum, turn 2 Angel, the Warp Angel, and then you can blink it with the drum. Get a lot of value that way, but solid card probably will see play. Next, we got a Road. This is like, it's a Path to Exile. It's really useful against Kaito. I maybe that's overstating it, but it's nice that on your main phase you can answer a Kaito for 1 mana. Card's probably overrated. I think that for it to be really good in your deck, you're going to have 1-drops that you want to target to ramp yourself and get their dice triggers. So I could see this even being better in a deck like a Sacrifice deck. But this is relevant for Pioneer. Gets to kill Greasefang for 1 mana. There's already Field Ruin control decks. There's Land Destruction decks. So for Standard, I'm not sure. Like, killing Badger Cub with this is not very good. It's fine. You'll do it. But I think this card might be a little bit overrated. It's like a Charming Prince variant. You get to blink things. It gets 1/1 counters. Nice for Pioneer that it's a legend. Works with Mox, Amber. This card's solid. You get a 2/2 for 2 mana. Flashback by tapping 3 creatures. Maybe could be something worth trying in Convoke. I really doubt it, but is a cool card. Can be discarded for value if your deck makes a bunch of guys. This is a way to blow up a creature. Probably not relevant. I'm going to try to skip the irrelevant cards. Informed Inkwright. I don't know if this makes the cut. You get a 2/2 Vigilance when you target a creature with an instant or sorcery. You get to make a 1/1 flying. That's obviously good, but I think it's probably outpaced with the way that Magic works nowadays. I'm sure we'll get a shit ton of bans once we get the yearly ban. I don't know when that is. If I had to estimate, it's probably in like 6 months or something like that, but maybe if they make room in the format, things like this could be better, but I think probably doesn't make the cut. Young Pyromancers in general haven't been good enough for a long time. Antiquities on the loose. 3 mana, 2/2/2s if it's cast from anywhere other than your hand. Put 1/1 counters on them. This works with the 2 mana Jace, which is kind of cute. I don't think it's good enough. This card probably won't be good in any format, but it is a cool design. It's just very mid-rangey for a game where mid-range kind of doesn't exist. It's basically, like, all the formats are basically just like tempo and combo. So it's hard to play stuff like this. Emeritus of Truce. 3 mana 3/3 comes into play. Give a player a 1/1 flyer, and then it becomes readied. If your opponent has more creatures than you, you get a Swords to Plowshare. So I've seen mixed reviews on this card, but I think it's decent. It sort of fits into like Collector's Cage. It's probably better. Like I've played Blade Splicers before, like just 1/1s that come with a 3/3. This is sort of the inverse. It's worse to blink, but that's not necessarily true because if you can blink it and get the plow a second time, that's a really big deal. So this card is probably better than it looks. I think people just want a lot from a Magic card nowadays, but this does sort of help you catch up against the Earthbend decks because they end up with more creatures. That's kind of nice, but it is probably too slow to be good in those types of matchups. So I don't hate this card, but it also matters for Kihira in Pioneer. I don't know why Kihira is still legal as a companion. It only goes in control decks. It's nonsense, but you can do that if you think it's good. Practice Offense. 1/1 counter, all your creatures, pick 1, gets double strike or lifelink, flashback for 2. So they're trying to make Anthem effects good in Standard. They keep pushing them. This one can be discarded for value. I think Anthems just aren't good. The games end so quickly. And there's just other ways to optimize your curve and to goldfish your opponent as quickly as possible. Typically for Anthems to be good, you need to get value of the stats that you're gaining on the board. So, you know, if you're trying to grind through spot removal, you have 3 1/1s. Now you have 3 2/2s. You just have a better clock and more pressure, and, you know, your value is spread across your board. I don't think things like that really matter that much anymore, and the sweepers are better than they've ever been, so there's one in this set that we'll get to that's very good. But cool design. Again, probably does not make the cut. This goes infinite with Goldspan Dragon. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it. It's probably not very good. Maybe good for constructed in some capacity, but we're going fast. Striving Hope Singer. 3 mana, 1/3 flying. Lifelink. Good stat line. Cast instant sorcery. Target creature that targets a creature. 1/1 counter on each creature you control. So This triggers once you get a 2/4 flying that grew your board. That's pretty damn good. Issue is, how do you get this to fit in a deck? The black-white mechanic for constructed is sort of awkward, where it asks you to play creatures and spells. Not a big task, but I don't know if there are any cards in standard that like make bodies and target things. Like something like that is really appealing. Like make 2/1/1s, target creature you control gets +2/+2, something like that. So maybe there is a card. I haven't looked. I barely play that much Magic anymore, but I haven't looked. But if there is something like that, that could be really good with this, where you're making bodies and triggering it, so you get the trigger after the tokens resolve. I guess that wouldn't even work, would it? Never mind. Card seems good though. Decent stat line. Probably not good enough for any format. Most Magic cards aren't good enough for any format anymore, because the standard's the baseline and it's an insanely high power level. So is what it is. Skip around. Harmonized Trio. This card's probably bad. Tap 2 untap creatures. You get to cast Brainstorm, which is nice, but Brainstorm's just not as good as people are going to want it to be. I think in these types of decks, it's very appealing to play Brainstorm alongside Fabled Passage and a bunch of removal spells. Your deck is a pile of creatures, maybe less so, but it's just a 1-drop Merfolk, which is probably just a really big deal, honestly. And it taps your things. So this card might end up being very, very strong. My inclination is that it probably doesn't matter. But, you know, like I said, if they ban a bunch of cards in 6 months, maybe, you know, things will be worth experimenting with again. But like, if you're casting this card against the people that are doing the things they're doing in standard, you're going to get ran over. Like, it's a joke, right? Like, if you play against mono green landfall, or is it, this card is not good. Flow State, this is probably the best card in the set. In a lot of mixed reviews. Some people going, well, you have to do both, that's so hard. And then other people are just saying, yeah, this is obviously broken. I'm sort of on that this is probably a broken card. Like the fact that blue-black decks and Pioneer get to play it with Thought Season Push. You can just play this in Phoenix. It's very straightforward to get an instant in Sorcery, obviously. In Standard, that's true as well. Foundations and the biggest card pool that's ever existed means it's not going to be hard to find a bunch of 1-mana instants and sorceries. So getting... Like, the first thing I want to compare is, like, the difference between Consider and Preordain is a pretty big deal. So even though this is a draw 2, you are getting 2 of 3 cards. Like, that extra filtering is really powerful, and I think potentially kind of difficult for people to appreciate. And then also, this is just an anticipate if in the worst case. So another thing that's different about this and Expressive Iteration is Expressive Iteration does sort of force you to function with the cards you get at sorcery speed, because one gets exiled. You have to play it as a land or play it at sorcery speed because it's going to go away at the end of the turn. This does not have that, right? Like, you can get 2 cards of value. This is a little more appealing in a control deck because you can pick up 2 counter spells and just sort of sit on them. And that's in addition to, you know, just playing the cards you get. So I think this card is incredibly strong. It's an interesting one because there's a lot, like, there's some varying opinions I've seen, but I think this is probably the best card in the set and probably will see a ton of play. I apologize if I'm skipping good cards. This is like Mana Drain if you have a wizard. This card is probably bad, but again, it's really part of why I rarely do set reviews anymore is because it, like, the way Magic is, it's so unfun to speculate on cards because the game is just hostile for everyone. Like, new things coming in just aren't exciting like they used to be, because you're just gonna die to like Prowess 1-drops and Badgermole Cub. So like 3-mana counterspell, like, this is an exciting card. It's cool. You get a bunch of mana, but it's a 3-mana counterspell, so all of the other details around it don't really matter to me. But maybe we'll try this in like Pioneer in some BS with like Augur, Bolas, and Storm Chasers, or the Otter Wizard that is like an Augur, Bolas. You can use it to cast Time Walks. Cool card, probably bad. Sky Coach Conductor. This is a new Restoration Angel. This is a hit off Collected Company. That's a really big deal. So you can play it in your Collected Company deck. You can blink things for value. You get to blink at instant speed, which is really nice. Vigilance and flying on a 2/3 is a pretty good stat line just for winning races and sort of controlling the board. It's a bird, which matters for, like, if you splash portal it, you get to draw. You can curve into this with Momo, which is a pretty big deal as well. If you want to just be proactive, you can get some beatdowns going. I think this card is probably actually good. It's easy for me to be hostile to all these cards, but I do think this has enough things going for it that I could see this being a good enough card. And I love a Restoration Angel, so fingers crossed. Wouldn't be surprised if this just does not make the cut. Okay, this card, we could talk about this. I'm not going to spend that much time. It says Ancestral Recall on it, but you get a 6-mana 5/5, draw 3, ward, and then, it can Treasure Cruise when you attack. I doubt that this is playable. Again, if they ban a bunch of cards, or decide to go back to 2-year standard, or make a new format where you can actually enjoy new cards, maybe this will be good. I just don't really care about it. I just doubt it's playable. Yeah, so the lessons are kind of interesting for Pioneer, right? You can tutor these with Learn. Most of the Learn decks are low curved, but if you're playing like divide by 0 type things, these big lessons can be appealing. Probably not going to see any play with this one in particular, but we'll talk about some other lessons when we get to them. Okay, this card's interesting. So there are cards in the set that care about if you gained life. This enables that. There are cards that care about like the heroic or removal part in black-white. So this, in Pioneer, there's a lot of heroic cards. I could see, I'll probably try to build like a black-white heroic deck if I build decks. So this triggers your heroic. It can kill your opponent's things. It triggers your life gain effects. It's not the greatest card. It's not crazy. I don't think it's a constructed staple, but I do think it's worth noting. It's 1 mana. It can deal with Llanowar Elves. Triggers life gain things. It's a decent amount of value for 1 mana, so keep an eye on that one. Another good card, 1-drop that gets counters whenever you cast instant or sorcery that targets a creature. I'll probably, like I said, if I try like a black-white heroic deck, I could see this fitting into that pretty well. 1-drops are good. They make a lot of 1-drops nowadays. I should note this card. Target opponent exiles a creature, planeswalker, greatest mana value. So yeah, this is nice against like Enduring Curiosity type things. It is sorcery speed removal, which just normally doesn't make the cut, but this one seems relevant. Post-mortem professor, we finally get a zombie. I always ask for zombies. We never get zombies. We finally got a zombie, and this one's pretty good. So 2 mana, 2/2 can't block. When it attacks, you get to drain, and then you can exile an instant sorcery, pay 2, return it from your graveyard to the battlefield. So this will trigger your Prized Amalgam. You're probably going to have to show up with Fatal Push and Thoughtseize in your zombie deck. Not a big deal. This is pretty decent at racing. It's good to discard for value. Does this end up being a card that is playable in any Magic format? Probably not. I could hammer it home again. You probably would prefer I shut up about it, but Magic is not close to the game I enjoyed anymore. You really can't do that much in any of the formats. I don't think a card like this is going to end up making the cut unless they decide to change the way that they make the game. So, yeah. Scheming Silvertongue. Seen a lot of people put this in their deck. You get a 2-mana 1/3 flying lifelink. Decent stat line. Beginning of your second main phase, if you gain 2 or more life, you get to prepare it, and then you can cast Sign in Blood whenever you want. I don't know about this one. It's got a decent stat line for a 2-drop. It's a fine ability. I'm not sure if it makes the cut. It's a vampire. That's cool if you want to try nonsense in Pioneer. If you can make it bigger, it's pretty good. Like I've played Reveiw a decent amount in Pioneer. It's okay. It's not like busted or anything, but you could beat people with Reveiw. So you curve this in Reveiw, you get to attack, you get the trigger, and I have a Sign in Blood. My issue is just, when do I want to spend time casting Sign in Blood? Typically, it's going to be in like mono black decks where I'm just trading 1-for-1 all the time, but I think Sign in Blood is such an outdated effect. You have Fable of Mirror Breakers and Unholy Annex. There's just, like, the card advantage spells are insane. So I'm not as excited about this one. I do think it is a really cool card. It's an awesome design, but many such cases where I just doubt it'll make the cut. Arneen, Deathblade Botanist. 3 mana, 2/2 Death Touch. Creature with power toughness 1 dies, drain 2. This card is pretty pushed. It does die to Shock for 3 mana, which maybe makes it a non-starter. But it's very good at getting people dead. I will probably try this in Pioneer and lose to Mayhem Devil because it's a horribly designed card. But there are things, it plays pretty well with Mobilize in Standard. It's really good at getting people dead. Like, you just need to trigger it 5 times, or excuse me, you need to trigger it 10 times and your opponent's going to die. which is not really that hard. Also, you're just going to do damage when you're attacking with things. So, and the death touch is nice. You get to trade or hold off things like shielded or whatever. But there's a lot of shocks, and there's going to be shocks for as long as they keep making magic the way that they make it. It will be one of the best things. It doesn't matter if they ban 15 more Izzet cards. I've made this point at the start of the video. All the formats are tempo and combo. There's not really traditional, like, there sometimes are control decks that prop up. They're rarely ever actually good. All the mid-range decks sort of pivot towards the combo end or the tempo end. I think that the way that Magic works, all the formats are legacy, so that makes Shock very good. Playing blue and red to be able to pressure combo decks and interact with tempo decks is really appealing. So I think this card will probably just stay bad as long as Magic stays the way that it is. Grave Researcher. This card is probably not good, but I'll read it. 3 mana, 3/3. At the beginning of your upkeep, surveil 1. Then if there are 3 or more creature cards in your graveyard, it becomes prepared. When it's prepared, you can cast Reanimate. This card is awesome. It's very cool. It's just, I struggle to understand what deck I would want to play with this. Maybe rotations, maybe bans. You can just do the living end thing. Like, there's just a million broken, miserable linear combo decks in Standard that aren't even playable. I can't imagine that putting a 3 mana 3/3 to try to accomplish something that seems worse than the ones that are available would be good. But cool card. Maybe this ends up somewhere. It's clunky and probably very bad. One of my favorite cards in the set, Mose Vane's Nudine. So you get a 3 mana 2/1 flyer. Comes into play, makes a pest. When that attacks, you gain a life. End step, if you gained life, return thing X or less, where X is the amount of life you've gained. So this can get back 1-drops when you attack with the pest. It's 2 bodies. It's nice. You can try it with Collector's Cage type things. Works in life gain decks where it's just giving you a benefit for gaining life and a way to gain life to make your Johnny's Pride Mates bigger. This card, very cool, sweet design, good value. Bird Skeleton Warlock. Probably not what Magic is about anymore, but I would love if this card was good enough and saw play. I think it's an incredibly cool design. Raul Zarek. So for Pioneer, fits pretty well into Greasefang's side decks if you are just playing against a lot of like spot removal effects. You get a Planeswalker, you can just play when they leave up removal. This will dig you to your Thoughtseize or your Greasefang if you don't have it, and then it can pull a Greasefang out of the graveyard. It can also discard cards out of the control opponent's hand, which maybe is relevant. And then it has an ult that can just time walk a bunch of times. So I've seen a lot of people, badmouth this card. It seems decent to me. Maybe I'll be wrong, but I like it. All right, I gotta remember to be fast. This is the fastest set review. Withering Curse. There's a Radiant Fountain in Standard. It's a land that comes into play untapped and gains 2. So you can use that to enable this. This is Infest or Wrath of God. This seems like a strong effect. I think Infest is probably pretty good in Standard in general. Cleans up Badgermole Cub. And then scales well into the late game against some of the larger creatures. So shouldn't be that hard to gain life. It's not free, right? It's not something you always get to do all the time, but you can play lands that gain life, and there's a lot of different things you can do to gain life in Magic. So probably a very powerful Wrath effect to have access to. I'm not going to read this. I don't think that this card is good. It's cool. It's Demonic Tutor, but this card is good. Unholy Annex is in Standard. This is a demon. It costs 4. It has a decent rate. It plays well in Sacrifice decks. Not very exciting. Everyone knows I'm not a big fan of Unholy Annex as a design. But if you want to do black mid-range beatdowny things, this card seems very good. Cool art. Cool card, honestly, but I'm not an Unholy Annex enjoyer. Okay. Decorum of Dissertation. This card is probably relevant in Pioneer. I don't see too many people play the Learn cards in Greasefang. This could be a good reason to do that. The Learn cards can discard your Parhelion, and then now you have a double Phyrexian Arena you can tutor from the sideboard against grindy decks. Yeah, this card is really powerful. It draws a lot of cards. It's like Unholy Annex levels of power, in my opinion, where it's going to be pretty hard to beat if you can't immediately kill your opponent. And the fact that you can tutor it out of your sideboard in Pioneer is a really big deal. Pox Plague, 5 mana, sack, or lose half life, discard half cards, sack half permanents, round down each time. Cool card. maybe there's like a mono black sack deck. Could be worth trying. Probably not worth spending the wild cards on, but I do enjoy a Pox effect. So, Ancestral Anger, big deal for standard if you want to do heroic type things, more prowess enabling. Trample, obviously very good. Dual Tactics, deal 1, can't block, flashback, prowess card, deals with elves, solid value, can be discarded for value. Good in red beatdown decks potentially. I wouldn't be that surprised if this card ended up not being good enough, but it does look like a solid card. Flashback, instant. This is just Snapcaster Mage's ability. Give a thing flashback. Probably a good card. It does force you into being red. I think flashback is like a reactive deck card primarily. I don't know if this is going to be that exciting in a deck like Prowess, but it's possible that since it's so cheap and all your other cards are cheap, that this is just going to make the cut there. But yeah, this is nice. It can flashback a Wrath of God or a card draw spell. That's something like that. The modality of that is pretty appealing for things like control decks. Again, it's kind of hard to play control decks when everything is 1 mana. And by their nature, control cards are not 1 mana. But this card's cool. I think it's good. I think it is something worth paying attention to and probably will see play. If it ends up falling short, I wouldn't be that surprised either. But this is a Strangle. I'm not going to talk about it. I think this card is probably bad. I'm not really going to talk about it. Cool card, though. What do we got? Are all the red cards bad? Okay, land destruction. So this is something people have done in Pioneer before. This is a pretty good land destruction enabler. This might even be a good enough just like red deck card. 3-power haster with upside. I doubt it. It's just going to die to shock. It's probably not a good magic card. And land destruction probably, like, even if they printed good land destruction effects, I don't even think they would be good in standard with the way that magic works. But this is one of the more push land destruction effects, so there's that. Cool card. I'll probably try it alongside the Path to Exile and some Boros pile. If I get around to that. This can be, I mentioned Divide by Zero decks. This is just a big spell to cast if you play like Mind Splice Apparatus or the new artifact that doubles your mana. So this card is probably worth messing around with in Pioneer if that's your jam. 3 and 1 drops sort of don't matter. They're all just worse than Llanowar Elf. You know, you can only play 4 Llanowar Elves in Standard, but still pretty hard to compete. Will forever be the best 1-drop. I don't like Foundations. I don't care about this. Care about anything. This card's cool. 3/4 Vigilance. You get to cast Regrowth. And then later in the game, if you have 8 lands, you can get more Regrowths. The stat line on this is solid. There's a lot of like mill yourself bullshit green decks. Maybe this is good in those. If it just ends up in like landfall, that's depressing. But again, one day things will rotate and cards will get banned. Vastland Scavenger. This card's pretty pushed. I don't know if it's playable at all. You get a Death Toucher 4/4, and you get to mill 7 and put a creature into play. Collect Company hit. Maybe good if you have a bunch of Crater Hoofs in your deck. Solid rate. Not much more to say there. This is sort of like 2 Ouroboros. Not really Ouroboros, but it's a lesson. Put 2 on counters on all your things. Probably unbeatable and limited. I don't know if this sees play in any constructed format. Slumbering Trudge. So this is a 6/6. Enters number of sun counters equal to 3 minus X. If X is 2 or less, it enters tapped. So for 1 mana, this is what? Going to come into play with 3 sun counters, right? I'm stupid. Whatever. It's going to come into play with a number of sun counters. This is nice with, what's the card called? Fight Rigging, right? So this is a 1 mana 6/6 for Fight Rigging. That's kind of cool. It has X in the cost that matters with some of the other cards. Just a decent rate all around. Like when you draw this late, it's going to come into play untapped. And it's just, you always get to use your mana on your curve. So this fits into those things. Again, is this the type of thing that matters in Magic? Not right now. I don't think so. But solid card. Maybe there's some other fancy things you can do with it. But it gets, you can find it off the Green-White Gear Hulk, which is cute, I suppose. Card's cool, but I don't really want to talk about it. We can talk about some of the charms. So this is Last Breath, 2 1/1 counters on a creature, or Helix Face. Probably an okay card. Plays well with the black-white. Mechanics. This card's sweet. Consolator. Is that how you say that? Conciliators. Duelist. I don't know what that means. I don't know anything. I'm dumb. Why are you listening to this? 4 mana, 4/3. Lose a life, draw a card. When you target a creature, you get to exile one target creature. So one of the cool things about this card is that it turns all your removal spells into blink spells, right? So if my opponent goes, I want to kill your 4/3, I go, I want to kill my 4/3, and before I kill my 4/3, this is going to trigger, and I get to blink it. So it becomes pretty difficult if you have mana up for your opponent to kill any of your things, because even if they're playing a control deck, your removal spells now get to interact with their removal spells. So this card's cool. It's relatively restrictive because of the cost. It's expensive. It's probably too expensive for any Magic format. It's just going to get countered, or you're just going to die before this thing gets online. But really cool designed and relatively powerful looking card. Yeah, so this is lose X life, return X artifact, or all your X cost artifacts or creatures. So if you have 2 7-drops, you can get back 2 7-drops for 7 life. The place that this seems appealing to me, because like this is going to be worse than Raise the Past most of the time if you're playing a deck with 2s. But maybe there's like a deck with 3s that's like Abs and Collected Company. You're doing some sacrifice synergy things. All your 3-drops are really high value. And if you ever play a late game, you can play this to get back like 3-drops. I don't think that's actually good. It's a cool design. Probably not really a good card. Silver Quill. So 4 mana, 4/4 flying, vigilance. You get a Sarah Angel, not bad. And then you can sacrifice thing costs 1 or less to copy your instants or sorceries. Or excuse me, power 1 or greater. My bad. It's been a wild casualty. So yeah, sack things, double your spells, pretty strong. No ETB, just gonna get bounced or die. But decent stat line and a really powerful effect if you can get it to work in a deck. Really cool card, probably not good enough. Prismari Charm, Surveil 2, draw a card, deal 1/2 each of 1 or 2 targets. Disperse, bounce a permanent, non-land. This card seems pretty good. I could see it seeing play in... Is it decks in any format? Maybe it doesn't make it past Pioneer just because it's not high enough power level, but it does a lot of things well. Just Surveil 2 draw on an instant is pretty good. Like, if you combine that with the bounce effect, like, that is probably a good enough Magic card. And then you have the ceiling of getting to pick off, like, 2 Elves or, 2 Otter tokens. So, I think this card's good. Vibrant Outburst. Lightning Strike, tap something. Probably good enough in some place. Okay, Resonating Loot. 4 mana. Lands you control have tap, add 2. Spend it only for instants and sorceries. You get to draw a card if you have 7 or more cards in your hand. So this is just another mana doubler. If you're playing in Pioneer and you want to try to play a bunch of Time Walks, this is a pretty good way to do it. The drawing extra cards thing is probably mostly flavor text, but it's nice to be able to do just when you're going off to make sure that you don't fizzle. Pretty scary card, not really a design I like, but at this point, I don't even know if Wilderness Reclamation really even needs to be banned. This makes you function at sorcery speed, sort of. It doesn't actually. I don't know. This just feels like Wilderness Reclamation to me. I don't know why they made this card. Maybe it's bad. Maybe I'm misreading it. This just looks like Wilderness Reclamation. I don't know what else to say. Just play a bunch of instants, double your mana. Have a good time. I guess Wilderness Reclamation costs 0, right? This card does not cost 0. When you play Wilderness Reclamation, you get the 4 mana back, so it didn't actually cost you anything. But if you on tap with this, is your opponent winning? Can they play the game? Probably not. I don't know what we're doing. Whatever. 5 mana. Deal 4 to all the creatures and planeswalkers, or draw 4 for sorcery. Pretty powerful effect. Flexibility in card draw and wrath is a really big deal. I think it shouldn't be understated. But deal 4 for 5 mana is not great. relatively color restrictive, but I do think this card is strong. I assume it will see some play, but maybe not. Maybe it's just too expensive. I don't think I care about that dragon. So deal X, draw 2, discard a card. You can just have X be 0 and then have instant speed, draw 2, discard a card. So I think that alone makes this card probably pretty appealing. This is something that would fit into your double all my mana with the artifact, the loot. You can just fireball your opponent's face and draw a million card, or deal a million damage, draw 2 cards. Yeah, I don't know. Probably a good card. I don't really care about that. Bletch, Loafing Pest. Whenever you gain life, 1/1 counter on each pest, bat, insect, snake, spider. Bat is the big one here. If you curve Deep Cavern Bat into this, it's a pretty solid beatdown. There's a lot of life gain bats in standard. You could try some abs and BS. Could be decent, but having to splash a third color is not perfect, but the bat deck does actually like dealing damage to itself some of the time. So, your starting towns have some value anyway. So I can see bats messing some people up. Cauldron of Essence. When your things die, drain. And then you can sack a creature to reanimate for 3 mana. This card's pretty pushed. I don't really know exactly where it's going to go. But there's been times in the past where I think people played like, sacrifice reanimator piles. There's been artifacts like this. You can use this to sacrifice your Stitcher supplier or whatever, get back into Traxa. It plays decently well with like cat oven type things. You can get back Igra. This card looks strong. Like, it looks strong enough to me, but I wouldn't be surprised if it came up short anyway. Dina's Guidance. You get Entomb or Eladamri's Call, I think is how you say it. So put a creature in your hand or graveyard. 3 mana is probably too much, but if you're just ending the game, maybe it's not. There's probably plenty of ways to do that. This card's solid. I don't know if I need to read all the uncommons. Mind Roots. This is a Mind Rot where you get the lands into play under your control. That's actually nice, but if all the decks are low curve, I don't know, maybe you're just going to take spells and they're not going to care, but this is a cool design. This might be a good card. Okay, cool. Professor Delian Fell. So this card's funny to me because reading it and analyzing it, like the way my brain is still kind of conditioned to old Magic because we've only had 3-year standard for what, like 2 years. But like this card is so insanely pushed, and I don't even know if it's playable. But for starters, 4 mana, it goes to 7 loyalty. It's very difficult to kill this card. It does everything you could want. It kills creatures, it draws cards, gains life, it gets loyalty, and then it ults the turn after you plus it, right? So if you plus this and your opponent can't interact with it, you can just ult. There's a charm that like gains 5 life, so that's 5 right there. Every time it pluses, it's going to deal 3 if you have any life linkers. Like your opponent can die very quickly if you get to ult this. It just does everything, but the way Magic, like the power level of everything is so insanely high, maybe this card is just not good. But yeah, if you play an elf and your opponent kills your elf and you play a Badger Milk Cub and they can't kill it, and then you play this on curve, they probably lose. Like it's going to be hard to beat. Maybe decks like Izzet could keep up. But like if you're on the play and you get to put this into play a turn early, it has so much loyalty. It does something really well that I think is maybe hard for certain players to appreciate, which it gains life and it has a lot of loyalty. And I know that sounds sort of straightforward, but typically when a Planeswalker is a part of a game of Magic, you need to identify like what you're going to do around it. So like if it's early in the game, you just almost always have to kill the Planeswalker because it's going to gain a bunch of value. But later in the game, you can say, I'm not going to attack your Planeswalker. I'm just going to kill you. I'm just going to kill you because I'm going to kill you in 2 or 3 turns anyway. And that's going to be my priority because I don't think I'm going to be able to be successful in killing your Planeswalker, and I don't want to give you a bunch of turns. So this puts your opponent in a position where they don't really have a good option because it's hard to kill you and it's hard to kill the Planeswalker. So I think like gain 3 life is not that exciting of a text box, but I do think it is relevant for the positions that decks that are trying to do mid-rangey things want to be in. So that's just one note I want to make about this card, but this kind of does everything. It seems very good. I wouldn't be surprised if it just wasn't good enough, as silly as that is. But this is like one of the most pushed Planeswalkers I've ever seen. This is like, Jace the Mind Sculptor-esque. I think Kaito might be the best Planeswalker, like, ever printed that is an Oko. That card's in Standard. It's not even in the best deck. So, is this card better than Kaito? Probably not. But Kaito also is, like, a cheaty Planeswalker. It doesn't really function like a regular one. A Vicious Rivalry. Packs life. Destroy artifacts, creatures, extra less. For 4 mana. Culling Ritual is a really important card in Pioneer. This gets to kill 3s, 4s, 5s, and up, which is nice, but losing life is not great. Typically against the decks that you're going to care about your life total, they're going to have a low curve anyway, so you're not going to lose that much. This card seems good. I don't have much to say about it. I don't think that card's actually good. This is cool. All the dragons are cool, but... what is this one? Whenever you cast instant or sorcery, tap 3 untap creatures, copy. So if you're just playing like hop to it type things, it's pretty easy to make a huge board. You're going to lose to wrath effects all the same. And this card's just going to do nothing some of the time. Hardened Academic. Okay, this card's pretty pushed. 2 mana, 2/1 flying haste. This card gets lifelink whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, on one counter on target creature control. So, yeah, this works with Monument. It works with anything that cares about graveyard stuff. You can do it with Bloodghast things. It works with Mako. It's just a solid rate, too. Like, it's kind of hard to race if you can make it bigger. It has lifelink. It has haste. It does just die, right? Like, it's going to get picked off. But the fact that it has haste means it's going to do something a large percentage of the time. You can get Trixie with the 1/1 counter as well if you have, like, flashback at instant speed. Obviously, the card flashback is an instant, so... There's that for starters. This card seems pretty pushed. Will it make the cut? I think so. Maybe the decks built around it just aren't good enough, but it is a very strong Magic card. Lorehold Charm. Each opponent sacrifices non-token artifact of their choice. Return artifact creature 2 or less. Play. Creatures +1/+1 trample. This isn't that exciting to me, but depending on, like, if you care about the sacrifice artifacts mode, mostly, I think, and then the other stuff is nice. So, if everyone's playing Monument, then I could see this being good. Flashback for 4, 2 mana, gain 2, discard, draw 2. Solid card. Arc of Hunger, whenever one or more cards leaves your graveyard, this artifact deals 1 damage to each opponent, and you gain 1 life. Mill card, you may play that card this turn. So this is kind of like Exile, you can play that card, but instead it goes to the graveyard, so it triggers itself. Maybe too slow, but pretty cool design. Helps race, pads your life total. I could see, like, if you could trigger this thing like 4 times a turn, which you probably can in a lot of decks, maybe this thing goes crazy. This one's hard for me to tell. Cool design, though. Probably decent. Like, Showdown of Skulls is like the Boros card advantage 4-drop of choice. Is this better than Showdown of the Skulls? Would Showdown of the Skulls be really good in Standard? I don't know. Maybe not, but we'll see. Like, the synergies of doing graveyard shenanigans with this could probably not be understated. So it's harder for me to conceptualize, but that one could be good. Lorehold. 5 mana, 5/5 flying haste. You get to Miracle, instants, and sorceries. And then you also get to loot on your opponent's turn to try to double Miracle. So baseline stat, 5/5 flying haste. That's pretty good. And then it does other things. It's a dragon if you care about that. Is this card good enough in Magic's current environment? I don't think so, no. Could it be good enough later? Maybe. I don't know. I feel like... saying maybe just feels like a lie. I just don't think anything's ever going to be good as long as it's 3-year standard just the way it is. I think they changed Magic intentionally to make it so more cards are appealing to modern players and Commander players. To accomplish that, they increased the card pool. Increasing the card pool and the size of the format increases the baseline of power level. That means it's really hard for cool, fun, big cards to be good because the baseline power level of everything lower on the curve is much better. So you just play 1s and 2s. It makes it really hard to play 5s. This card is sweet, though. I hope that one day you could play this in a 60-card constructed format. Geometers, Arthropod. 2 mana, 1/4. Cast thing with X. Look at X cards, put 1 in your hand. Like Mockingbird for 1 will draw a card and then copy this. So this goes pretty crazy if you have a bunch of Mockingbirds. There's probably plenty of X cards. Like Pioneer, there's Stone Coil Serpents. You can just have a 1-mana 1/1 that draws a card, which is kind of nice. This card maybe is good. It's got a good stat line. It draws cards. Kind of hard to kill. Blocks decently well. So weird, sort of a weirdo card. But if you're just spending 1 mana to draw cards, or just playing X spells that you're happy to be casting anyway, I could see this card being playable. Wow, I didn't even read this card. 1/1 counter. There's gonna be cards I skipped, but that's fine. 1/1 counter and then double counters. Huh. Maybe this card isn't good enough, but you can definitely get people dead. Quandrix Charm. I actually like this card. I haven't seen that many people talking about it, but 2 mana, quench, blow up an enchantment. Target creature becomes a 5/5. This just reads like a good card. It's like pump spell, blow up enchantment, counterspell on a charm. Like this seems like perfect. Like quench is like not the most exciting magic card, but the second you put it on something like a charm that can actually scale a little bit better, it becomes way more powerful. So this card seems pretty push. Maybe Simic Flash is not something worth doing, but it's nice. Pioneer blows up Unholy Annex and able to Mirror Breaker type things. You know, not good against Corey Steelcutter, but I don't know. I don't know why that card's still legal in Pioneer, to be honest. Apply Geometry. Create a token that's a copy of non-aura permanent. 6/1/1 counters on it. It's a 0/0. I don't know. Maybe there's some BS you can do with this. I can't come up with it. Berta. This has got to be some like infinite combo thing. I doubt it's good. I'm gonna skip it. Okay, we're almost done. Hopefully this was fast enough. I feel like I always go longer than I want to. Quandrix the Proof. That's a cool name. 6 mana, 6/6 flying trample, cascade, instant sorcery spells. Cast from your hand have cascade. This is actual factual cascade. So this is gonna this is gonna be part of some BS, right? Gonna be some nonsense combo you can do because of cascade. I don't know. This card's sweet. Is it good? Doubt it. This card I don't hate. Mind into Matter. 2 and X, draw X cards, put a permanent X or less on the battlefield tapped. So this is ramping you, right? You just put a land into play, no matter what. So if you want this to be a really bad explore, you can do that. But if you have 4 of these in your deck, just ramping at all is going to be appealing because you're getting cards back by having the mana a turn sooner. Is this the type of thing that's good in Magic? I don't know, but it does work well with the loot, right? The loot doubles all your mana. You play this. Maybe you can put in some sort of creature that can, I don't know, clean up the board a little bit or gain you life, stabilize you, and then you have a bunch of cards in your hand. Is this the type of thing that's good in Magic nowadays? Again, probably not. You know, you can just play like the Green Sun Zenith and Craterhoof your opponent with your Badgermole Cubs instead of doing this. But these lands are back. I don't think I need to talk about them that much. Isn't this card interesting? O2, tap for colorless. Discard another card named reveal cards on the top of your library to insert sorcery. Put that card in your hand. Huh. So, can you exploit this card? Yeah, so if you just have 1 instant or sorcery in your deck, you always get it. Which I don't know what we're doing with this, but that maybe matters. It's also just a mana guy, so not a terrible baseline. Oh, I guess Collected Company, right? So like you could play 4 of these in your Collected Company deck. Every time you draw 2, you just get to draw Collected Company, and then it curves into Collected Company. So that's kind of cute. We could try that. It's Construct, I guess. It's an artifact. Interesting common. Sure. Hopefully it's not broken or something. Together is 1, 6 mana. Converge, so that's for each color of mana you spent. So if you spend 5 different colors, to deal 5, draw 5, gain 5. Maybe this is something worth doing. I kind of doubt it, but it's pretty exciting. Probably a fun card to play with Unlimited. The Dawning Archaic, 10 mana, 7/7. It costs 1 less for each instant or sorcery in your graveyard. Reach. That's a pretty big deal, reach. Reach on a creature like this, helping you stabilize is good. If you attack, cast instant or sorcery from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. And then exile it. So you can get Time Walks into your graveyard in Pioneer. You can do nonsense with this. I guess this triggers like Sanctum of Ugin. I don't think that matters, but it's a big colorless dude. There's already some like Tolarian Terror type things. This guy's really big. Kind of interesting. It doesn't force you into being blue. Like you could play like a red-black spells deck with this guy. Is that good? Probably not. Cool design. Maybe a bit too expensive for constructed. Okay, well, I think that's going to do it. So hopefully I went over the cards, gave some opinions. This is also useful for me to just make sure I know what the cards do. If I skip the card and you think it's really good, feel free to let me know what that card is. Set looks sweet. I wish I liked Magic a little more than I currently do. But I do think they still design some cool cards. I just think the environments we get to play them in are kind of dog shit, unfortunately. So that's my opinion. I hope you guys are enjoying Magic. I hope you're having fun with it. I certainly would rather that than the alternative. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time. Peace.